Judge Amy Coney Barrett is expected to be President Donald Trump's pick to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat on the U.S. Supreme Court. He's hoping she'll become the court's all-important sixth conservative vote. If confirmed by the Senate, Barrett, at 48 years old, could shape the high court for decades.
A president has a bigger impact on the court the longer the justice he or she appoints stays in office.
She's long expressed her affinity for the late Justice Antonin Scalia, whom she clerked for in the Supreme Court, and his support for originalism, or interpreting the Constitution according to its original meaning.
Justice Scalia's philosophy of judging was not only right as a matter of the constitutional structure, but it was also self-discipline.
Barrett returned to her alma mater to launch her academic career. She still teaches law at Notre Dame. She became well known in conservative legal circles and spoke to audiences around the country about what the Supreme Court's role should not be when it comes to social change.
When legislative change is slow, because people increasingly see the court as a political institution, when they can't accomplish things in the legislature, they try to litigate it and then declare a fast win through the court because they think it's faster to get it through the justices than to convince their citizens in the legislative process.
She offered as an example the issue of transgender students who were seeking access to the restrooms that matched their gender identity. Lawyers for transgender students argued that under a 1972 civil rights law, their clients' rights were being violated. The part of the law prohibiting discrimination in education based on sex is known as Title IX.
It's a who decides question. When Title IX was enacted, it's pretty clear that no one, including the Congress that enacted that statute, would have dreamed of that result at that time. Maybe things have changed so that we should change Title IX, but it does seem to strain the text of the statute to say that Title IX demands it.
In her 2017 appellate court confirmation hearings, Barrett emphasized time and again that a judge's personal opinions shouldn't matter.
I think if I express a personal view on any of these matters, it might give the misimpression that my personal view is what would drive the decision of a case.
No,
it would not be.
I stipulate that won't happen.
As for her personal view on landmark Supreme Court rulings, Barrett wouldn't budge, even when those questions came from Republicans who supported her nomination.
What did you think about the opinion?
I wasn't alive when Griswold came down.
Well, what about when you first read it?
Well, gosh, Senator, I think, again, whatever I might have thought about it, I first read it when I was a law student. But whatever I would have thought about it then or whatever I would think about it today wouldn't matter. I would put that aside.
In Griswold v. Connecticut in 1965, the Supreme Court found a state law which prevented married couples from using contraception to be unconstitutional. The court's opinion recognized within the Constitution a right to privacy.
Do you believe there's a right to privacy under the Constitution?
The court has quite clearly held that there is.
And do you agree with the court?
Senator Blumenthal, I would follow all court precedent, and whether I agree or disagree would be beside the point to the discharge of my duties if I were confirmed as a judge.
So you have no personal views on whether there's a right to privacy in the Constitution?
Well, Senator, I think the question is whether I have personal views that would be appropriate to share in this context, given the misimpression it could give litigants who might appear before me if I were confirmed.
Both Democrats and Republicans asked Barrett whether she'd seek to overturn Roe v. Wade.
If confirmed, would you follow Supreme Court precedent involving abortion?
Absolutely, I would.
Do you think Roe v. Wade was correctly decided?
Well, Senator, I'm sorry that I feel like I can't, as a nominee, offer an opinion because I don't want to give the impression that I would treat some precedents as more binding or more valuable than others. I would apply Roe and its progeny just like I would apply all Supreme Court precedent.
The Senate confirmed Barrett to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago by a vote of 55-43. There, she began to establish her judicial record. In 2019, she described an example of how she applied her principles in a case involving Second Amendment rights for felons.
After surveying all of the arguments, the historically based arguments for the constitutionality of depriving felons of their right to possess firearms, that there was no blanket authorization to just take guns, that the right to possess a gun away from someone who had committed a felony.
Progressives worry that Barrett would create a more conservative Supreme Court that could block their aspirations. Barrett has long said she believes the public, through their elected representatives, rather than the courts, should lead the way in social change.
The who decides question, just as a personal matter, is really important to me. And so I guess I worry a lot, about that who decides question about our decisions, or, and my voice kind of getting taken away.
Now Barrett may herself become the one who decides.